So a lot has happened in the last 24 months in the world of Bluetooth beacon technology, but there's even more that's going to happen. And if I look out over the next year, one of the things that I'm really excited about is the advent of a project which has been curated by some Google employees, which is called URI Beacon and the Physical Web. And up until now, beacon technology has relied on a dedicated app that has to be written, and that's an expensive and difficult thing to get right. And it's not that it's a bad model, it's a fantastic model. If you are Facebook or you're Shazam or Groupon, and all of those companies are embracing beacon technology. But for the rest of us, large companies through to small and medium companies, having a successful app is very challenging. What URI Beacon does is it's enabling simple web creation tools to develop web pages that can be triggered by beacons. And the beacons, rather than sending numbers to an app, are simply broadcasting a URL. So you will literally browse the physical web, maybe with the existing browser that you use for the World Wide Web, and you'll be able to not only see information about the things around you, but interact with the things around you as well. And it's the low cost and ease with which that content that can be created, which I think is particularly exciting and will really complement the app-based model that Apple have pioneered. As I look further out, then I think the opportunities for an evolution of the technology and the Bluetooth standard in particular are quite important. There's always going to be pressure on power consumption. There are individual companies that are innovating around cutting the power that beacon technology consumes, and that's really important because now we're getting into mainstream and we're talking about tens of thousands of beacons being deployed. Replacing the batteries in all those is expensive and difficult and is going to block some projects. So anything we can do to use some of the heuristics to make the chip technology more efficient and the middleware that sits on it more efficient is going to be very important. Another area which I'm expecting to see evolve in the next 2 or 3 years is the accuracy of beacon technology. And really, Bluetooth beacons are a fairly blunt sword. They're a sharper sword than pretty much anything else that's out there, certainly for the price. But I think there's more that can be done to smooth out, to do a better job of smoothing of signal, to filter out some of the multipathing interference. And lastly, probably a bigger jump is to look at, go beyond just signal strength and looking at the round trip time of the signal, which we know would give us a better level of accuracy, which is going to open up even more possibilities and make the technology simpler and easier for people to deploy. There are 3 areas where we're going to have to collaborate as a community to shepherd the development of Bluetooth beacon technology and see it achieve its full potential. One of those areas is privacy. The second one is management and middleware. And then the third one is consistency across operating systems. Privacy, this beacon technology is incredibly powerful in terms of our ability to look at what people are doing in a much greater level of detail than we've ever been able to do before in a much more personal way. We've already seen a few missteps that have really hit fairly major deployments badly when people start to get scared that their personal information is not being well looked after. So as an industry, we're going to have to work and probably go beyond what we think is reasonable, beyond the expected, because with great power comes great responsibility. And whilst the majority of people will just enjoy the experience, that whole thing can be derailed by the missteps of those of us who are just excited to get the technology out there and maybe less concerned about the privacy issues. So the second area is management, and between the Bluetooth SIG and what Apple has done with iBeacon, there's a great baseline of standards, But the whole area of securing beacons and avoiding showrooming and obfuscating the identity of beacons so that you can control the access of who sees the beacon and who doesn't is completely non-standard. And whilst there's a lot of value in seeing which of the approaches flourish and is most successful, it's really going to get in the way of interoperability, and it's going to hold us back unless we can start to embrace some of the standards in the management area and develop them and apply them to the deployment of beacon technology and also some of those middleware functions. And then lastly, if I look at the consistency of the beacon experience across operating systems, there's a huge variation between iOS and Android in the way beacons are managed, and potentially that division is going to get even bigger with the advent of URI Beacon, which has been an open source project that's really been cultivated outside of Apple by Google and many other people. So my hope is we can find a way to marry all of these things together and get some consistency so that developers can focus on innovation rather than just the porting issues and incompatibility that comes with different stacks being implemented very differently on those two platforms. I'm really looking forward to the Bluetooth World event. I think it's going to be a great show, and it comes at a great time in the evolution of the Bluetooth ecosystem. There's just so much happening. It's impossible for any one person to keep track of everything that's happening when they're sitting on their own in a lab or at their computer. So meeting people will be a great opportunity to learn from what other people are doing. And I think it'll be particularly interesting given where the ecosystem is at the moment. There's a lot of startups that are going to turn into big companies. So this year we'll be driving to the conference. Maybe in a few years' time, people will be dropping in their helicopters and Learjets as some of these companies really take off and build on this Bluetooth stack that the SIG has developed. Then lastly, personally, I'll be promoting New Location Essentials, which is more than just a book. There's a crowdsourced database that I'm encouraging people to look at. It lists started off with a list of all of the beacon companies that I was aware of, and now it's growing thanks to the efforts of other people. There's also a case study notebook at newlocationessentials.com. So thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing everyone at the conference.